The coupe is progressing nicely. It's almost ready to be painted. Though before I do that, there's a few steps that need to be done first, like add some siding to this gable end above the door. There's a little space above the doorway that would have gotten OSB, but I modified the design a bit. Originally, this entire side was going to be siding, but now the open space is going to be mesh. I ripped a strip to cover that board. This makes the entire above space all the same elevation. I'd like to add a trim piece to frame in this triangle. In order to make it fit well, I had to mark and notch out a little bit on either end. Just like the other siding, the first row needs a starter strip. Even though this is such a small section, skipping the starter strip could make it look a little off. I carefully measured, marked, cut, and attached the siding for this area. I used a combination of finish nails and construction adhesive to secure all the pieces. Here's a little trick that I use when there's still adhesive left in the bottle. I just use a piece of packing tape, or in this case, house wrap tape, because I was out of packing tape, and place that piece over the end of the nozzle. If it's sealed up really well, I've had a used bottle last for an insane amount of time. It works for all kinds of adhesive and caulking canisters. Here's an old bottle of window caulking that, after a year of sitting around, picks up right where it left off. Using that bottle of caulking, I sealed up all the edges, corners, seams, knots, nail holes, and gaps. I did not add a house wrap layer to the coupe, so this step is really important to prevent any water leaking inside. Some mud splashed up and stuck around from the last rainstorm. It was dry, so all I needed to do was use a broom and brush it off to make a clean painting surface. Because there is so much small surface area on all these beams, I decided to try using a roller. It didn't take long to realize how bad of an idea that was. Rolling individual boards like this is just way too slow. I kept going to use up all the paint in the tray so it didn't go to waste. It's paint day. I started by covering up the windows with tape and paper. Luckily for this coupe, the two windows were the only things that needed covering. I dug around in the house looking for a paint sprayer that was used for a project long before we bought this house. I couldn't find it, so I went to Harbor Freight and bought the cheapest air sprayer available. $12. If it works, great. If not, then I'm only out $12. In my mind, that's worth a gamble. And I can give an honest review. I loaded up the hopper, charged up my compressor, and got to it. Now, it did work, but this is not a high capacity sprayer. I didn't mix in any paint thinner, which probably would have changed the performance. I messed with all the knobs in the sprayer, but it was just really slow. This would work great for detail stuff, but not for a sizable job like this. Also, it's kind of difficult adding paint to the hopper because you can't stand it up easily. My compressor was also struggling to keep up with the constant need for a moderate PSI. So all in all, this just wasn't the right setup for painting the coupe. I finished spraying as much of the paint in the hopper as I had the patience for, so less paint was wasted. I got back to digging around and actually found the power sprayer I was looking for. Once I figured out how to use it again, it was time to go to town. This thing is like using a magic wand. I just point and shoot, and in an instant an area is well coated. A piece of cardboard prevented overspray onto the roof and flashing. I kept going until I ran out of paint. The next day, I picked up one more can of paint and finished the job, getting the backside and any spots that I may have missed on the first go round. Whenever you use a spray gun like this, if you ever want to use it again, then you have to clean it well. I flushed the entire system with water a few times until absolutely no paint residue was left. The dogs were not fans of my new water gun. A little bit later, I took off the window masking, and just like that, a freshly painted building. This thing is stunning, and it's taking after the workshop pretty well. Still so much to do to get ready for chickens. Okay, that's it for now. See ya.
Go, 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 go.